The tunnel narrows as the party presses deeper. The stone walls slick with moisture and clawed, scarred age. The air is unnaturally still, no dripping water, no distant underdark wildlife, just the sound of careful breathing and soft footfalls. When the torchlight flickers, not from wind but from movement, high above where the ceiling dissolves into darkness, something shifts. A pale, sinewy limb uncoils from the stone like a living rope, fingers splayed wide and twitching with hungry anticipation. Before anyone can even shout a warning, it snaps downward, wrapping tight around a throat, crushing the breath from a startled adventurer. Another arm quickly follows, and then another. From the walls, the ceiling, and the shadows themselves, hunched forms peel away from the rock, grey-skinned creatures with wide, lamprey-like mouths and eyes that gleam with cruel intelligence. They don't roar, they don't hiss, they strangle, because in the Underdark, death doesn't always come screaming from the darkness. Sometimes it reaches down and pulls you into it. Yes, today we are talking about one of Underdark's most unsettling ambush predators, the Choker. Hello and welcome to Dungeon Dive, where we talk about all things D&D monsters, from monsters in their lore to their publication history, where they originated and how you can use them in your D&D games. Now, the Choker is a strange amalgamation of grey rubbery skin with the torso resembling something similar of like a gnome or a halfling, but that is probably where the similarities end. Some say that on occasion they could even change the tone of their skin to fit their surroundings, kind of like a chameleon. But like I said, the size of their body and head resembles something similar to a halfling or a gnome, but when it comes to the limbs, they are long and thin, being more akin to tentacles than actual humanoid limbs. The arms can reach out to as far as 10 feet, but if it chooses to extend its legs, then it would be able to reach the height of around 6 feet tall. At the end of the arms, instead of there being hands, it has a starfish-like appendage, with spiny cartilage giving them an extremely powerful grip. This also gives them a great ability to grapple onto walls and ceilings, giving them a lot more angles of attack. There are debates between researchers that claim that only their skulls and spine and rib cages are made of bone, but the rest of their body is cartilaginous and multi-jointed. The Choker doesn't have the highest of intelligence, but they have an unnatural quickness when it comes to their movement. Because of their naturally flexible skeletons, they can enter through gaps as small as 4 inches. Although some suggest that they were not truly malicious, Choker's actions were those of chaotic evil beings. They are known to be quite cowardly and rely on stealth purely to survive. Dwarves and goblins take advantage of their cowardness and often clang together weapons and shields to scare Chokers away when traveling through areas that they might be found in. Chokers have a habit of collecting small trinkets and baubles from their victims who fall prey to their little starfish hands. This obsession is so bad that on occasions their need to collect could possibly save an adventurer's life if they offer up something up to their standards. Now, Chokers are primarily solitary creatures, but they all do have the same preferred preferences when it comes to their home. So this could mean that if you run into one Choker, that could mean there are more not that far away. From time to time, some creatures in the Underdark would go to measures as to pay Chokers with food and trinkets to either guard their homes or make assassination attempts. Now, when it comes to Chokers communicating, they speak to each other in their own primitive language. They also have a habit of making creepy howls that echo through the caverns, making it hard to pinpoint their location. And as you can imagine, their preferred location to call home is in the Underdark, but there are actually 2 types of Chokers. There is the Cavern Choker, and then there is the Feygrove Choker. The Cavern Choker is the more commonly known version of this monster, with the Feygrove being a more distant cousin of the Cavern Choker. Chokers are known to be carnivorous with an extremely fast metabolism for their small stature, and they can survive on nothing more than a creature the size of a goblin every couple of days. When it comes to food, goblins are their favorite little snack, but they are more than happy to eat anything and everything they can get their slimy little tentacled hands on. With their riding solo and cowardly nature, they do have a difficult time finding a significant other. In an attempt to find a mate, they make high-pitched whines as mating calls to attract others, although other denizens of the Underdark find the whine extremely annoying. When the mating call is successful and they successfully do the dirty deed, the female will carry the child only for a few months before giving birth, and sometimes bear as many to 2 to 6 children. Both of the parents actually stay with the young for about 3 years, where at that point they will all go their separate ways in search for new mates and food. Alright, now it's time to go over the Choker's publication history through D&D, and then the stat blocks for 5e and the homebrew stat blocks I've created for you. The chokers made their first appearance in the 1988 D&D first edition accessory, The Dwarves of Rockholm. The book says that chokers are bizarre creatures that live in caverns and caves. It says that the chokers in this book tend to sit against the walls of small passageways that the dwarves use, waiting for a solo poor soul to walk through. When they strike, I feel you can guess they grab their targets and choke them, and once their target is dead, they will use the sharp cartilage in their hands to cut their prey down to size for transport. However, if the target manages to escape, the choker won't put up a fight and carry on fighting them. It will quickly retreat and try and make its escape. And then finally, for first edition, the choker appears again in the 1993 first edition creature catalog. Moving on to second edition, we get the choker in the 1994 Mystara Monstrous Compendium Appendix. They are described as vicious little monsters found in caves and small crawlings, and it also says that they are so primitive that they don't actually use tools. Instead of using tools to break stones and rocks, they instead have the strength to break them with their bare hands, if you can call them hands. And with it having an extremely high metabolism, that means it could burn through calories at a rapid speed. So after its meal, it will instantly go out on the search for more food. There is a legend in goblin circles that say that chokers descended from a goblin band which, beset by hardship, turned to cannibalism. The youngsters in the tribe then devoured their elders, and over time the band degenerated. And with the twisting of their minds came a reshaping of their bodies. Their arms grew long and their fingers steely, enabling them to better grab and strangle prey. They no longer fed upon each other, but continued to crave the flesh of normal goblins. In areas infested with chokers, goblins and dwarves also take advantage of the choker's caution by making lots of noise, pounding weapons on shields and the like to scare the chokers away, but this tactic sometimes backfires, as the noise will sometimes attract other, more dangerous monsters in the area. The choker then appears in the D&D 3rd edition monster manual, where it has a little paragraph where it says, a creature perches in the shadow near a ceiling or in the corner of a chamber. Its body resembles that of a naked halfling with mottled flesh, but its limbs are incredibly spindly and long. It hisses, showing sharp, large teeth at distance before one of its limbs snap out like a whip. Moving on to 3.5 edition, we get the stats in the 3rd edition get revisited in the 3.5 edition monster manual. They then appear in the 2004 Dragon Magazine number 323, where we get a full section called The Ecology of the Choker. It says that the chokers are relatively newcomers to the pitch dark realms of the Underdark. Some say that their numbers are increasing more and more each year, even though no one really fully knows why. There is a theory that claims a population of gnomes who descended into the darkness long ago evolved into chokers, and over time, these gnomes mutated into horrible aberrations, possibly due to a dabbling of cannibalism and weird magic of the Underdark. Gnomes multiple times, however, have denied this theory and are insistent that the resemblance is purely superficial. A more likely theory involves chokers as a result of some experimentation that went horribly wrong. Many of their characteristics seem reminiscent of drow handiwork. Again, drows deny any involvement in the creation of chokers, although I wouldn't put it past drow to hide their true intentions when it comes to their involvement, as chokers have been known to linger around drow settlement and cities. We don't know if that is for food or because they have some leftover memories from experiments where there used to be drow. Even though chokers do have an ability to communicate in a way, trying to get information of their origin out of them would be no use, as chokers are renowned for not knowing where they originated or if they were created or naturally birthed. Although constantly hungry, chokers can survive almost a month without a meal, becoming increasingly irritable and likely to take risks in order to procure food. In desperate measures though, a choker could eat lichen, moss and fungi, scraping it off the walls with their raspy sharp tongues. And when it comes to the lair of a choker, they establish them near crossroads or other places with readily available prey. In an ideal situation, the entrance of the choker's lair is a difficult to spot narrow crevice, only accessible by climbing up a wall. We then get a small variant of a choker in the 2006 Dungeon Magazine number 136 called the Obar Blessed Advanced Choker, which is a variant of the choker that has been empowered by Obar, a sinister Yuan-Ti deity associated with poison, darkness, and corruption. Now moving on to 4th edition, the choker appears in the 2008 Monster Manual, where we finally get revealed the Cavern Choker and the Feygrove Choker. The art in this book is amazing. It's scary, it's creepy, and shows both variants. We get the Feygrove Choker and the Cavern Choker. Feygrove Chokers, instead of caverns, tend to hide in trees and fauna with the ability to blend into the grassland like a chameleon. And finally, moving on to 5th edition, we don't get any stat blocks in the Monster Manual. We do get them in the Mordecaiman Presents Monsters of the Multiverse and Tales of the Yawning Portal adventure book. Nothing is really added to the lore of the choker, so why don't we go over to the stat blocks in 5e and then the homebrew stat blocks I've made for all of you to use in your D&D games. I'm going to use a stat block from the Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse book, as it's practically the same as the stat block in the Yawning Portal with very slight differences. The 5e choker has an AC of 16 with only 13 hit points, but with a speed of 30 feet. They have a +6 to stealth and can speak deep speech. They have an ability called Aberrant Quickness that recharges after a short or long rest, where the choker can make an additional attack on its turn. They also have an ability called Boneless, where the choker can move through and occupy a space as narrow as 4 inches wide without squeezing. They also get the ability to spider climb to get any and all angles for its attack. And for its actions, the choker has a multi-attack where the choker can make 2 tentacle attacks. The tentacles have a +5 to hit with a reach of 10 feet and deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage plus 1d6 piercing damage. And if the target is a large or smaller creature, it is grappled with an escape check of DC 15, and until the grapple ends, the target is restrained and the choker can't use a tentacle on another target. The choker has 2 tentacles, and if this attack is a critical hit, the target also cannot breathe or speak until the grapple ends. Okay, that's the official stat block done. Now let's go over the homebrew stat block and how you can use it in your games. The first one I've made is the Choker Stalker, which is a slightly more dangerous choker that is adapted to the art of stealth and ambushing. It has an AC of 14 and 39 hit points and has a speed of 30 feet and a climb speed of 30 feet, and I gave it the ability to see in blind sight for 10 feet also. For its traits, I give it an ability called False Stillness, where while motionless, the choker is indistinguishable from natural stone. And then I also gave it an ability called Sealing Ambusher, where if the choker hits a creature that hasn't acted yet in combat, the target has disadvantage on saving throws to escape the grapple. For the actions, it has the same multi-attack with its tentacles, but for the tentacles itself, they have a +5 to hit with a 10-foot reach, and deals 1d8 plus 3 bludgeoning damage, and the target is grappled. Until the grapple ends, the target is restrained. And I've also given it a bonus action where one creature grappled by the choker takes 2d8 bludgeoning damage. I've also gone the opposite end of the spectrum of the Choker Stalker with the Choker Brute. I see this one as a jacked up choker with like the giant gene in them or something. It has an AC of 16 and 85 hit points with the same walking and climbing speed, but it also has saving throws in Dex and Con. For its traits, it has a Grasping Horror trait where the choker can grapple up to 2 creatures at once. Each creature grappled by the choker is restrained until the grapple ends. I also made the trait called Crushing Arms, where each creature grappled by the choker takes 1d10 bludgeoning damage at the start of its turn. Again, this one has the multi-attack action, and for the tentacles, it has a +7 to hit with a reach of 10 feet and deals 2d6 plus 4 bludgeoning damage. And the target is grappled. Until the grapple ends, the target is restrained. You sense a theme here. And finally, I gave it a bonus action called Reposition, where the choker can move up to 15 feet without provoking opportunity attacks after grappling a creature. I see this as like the choker is using the people it's grappled as like human shields to get out of the way without people swinging at them. I feel like these monsters are a great low-level monster that you can throw at your party in large numbers to flush out an adventure in the Underdark. Your party could be traversing down an Underdark tunnel known to the people who live there as the Choked Halls of Shadows, where unbeknownst to the party, they have been led right into a small den of multiple chokers where the party gets surrounded at all sides with variants of chokers, stalker chokers, and choker brutes. But that is all I have for you guys today on the choker. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all found this video helpful, and if there's anything I've missed, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. What monster would you like me to cover next? Let me know in the comments and I will add that comment at the end of that video. If you've enjoyed the video, drop it a like and a cheeky sub if you haven't already. It helps more than you realize. Thank you all again, and I hope to see you all in the next video.